Okay, so today we're going to talk about proper pulling ratios, and by that I mean the volume of your rowing exercises or your pulling exercises coming from a low angle versus your pulling exercises coming from a higher angle, like you would see here in a lat pull down or in a pull up, for example. So assuming that you have good posture or neutral posture, the ratios that you will want to incorporate of these two main angles in the pulling exercises here in your exercise programs are going to be 1-to-1. However, if you're part of the aging population primarily that's going to have poor posture, or if you have muscle imbalances, and we'll get into some of the major muscle imbalances in the next slide, but if it's been determined that you've got poor posture, your ratios are going to be 2-to-1, pulling down low to from pulling from high angle respectively. And really the exercise in question here is the lat pull down, and is it good for posture? I would say that in general, yes, it's a great exercise. It's one of the best exercises you can do for the upper body, but the application, you've got to be a little bit careful when you're talking about posture, and we'll get into the anatomy and the reasons why you do want to change those ratios according to how well your upper body is aligned. So let's take a look at that. All right, so here's a perfect example of, if this were my client, I would suggest that he do a 2-to-1 ratio from a low angle to a high angle respectively, because if you look at him, he's got forward head posture, meaning that he's carrying his head forward, and if you look at his upper body and his arm posture, the humerus, which is the upper arm bone, is inwardly rotating and depressing a little bit. Of course, there's some other muscles involved in that, but the focus here is on the lat muscle from the lat pull down. And then let's just trace it down. Lower body, you'll see the hand is rotating inward a little bit in neutral or good upper body posture. We'll see more of the back of the hand. All right, and then I've also given you a frontal view where you can see that the shoulder and arm bone are inwardly rotated, depressed, based on the arrows there that I've planted. So just to recap, forward head, depressed, internally rotated shoulder, internally rotated hand and arm. That is something that a term coined by Yanda, famous physical therapist. Upper cross syndrome is the well-known label that's associated with this image that you see here on the left. And again, it was someone with upper cross syndrome. Don't have them do the 1-to-1 ratio. But let's get into the anatomy of the lat and why the lat gets activated to a greater degree in the lat pull down, which could contribute towards this posture that you see here. So let's move along. Okay, so we're going to have some fun with the anatomy. This large lat muscle here is really fun to talk about because it arises from so many structures. The lower 6 thoracic vertebra, all of the lumbar vertebra arises from the sacrum, which in this image you can't really see because the fascia overlays it. The lat also does arise from that structure as well, with the iliums. The iliums, of course, is adjoined to the sacrum, so the lat rises from that one as well, along with the lower 3 or 4 ribs, all of which insert into the intertubercular groove of the humerus shared with the teres major. Okay, that was a mouthful. So let's now take a look at the functional anatomy of the lat and how it moves the bones. Okay, so here you can see it's an extensor of the humerus in the sagittal plane. This is horizontal adduction of the humerus right here. And what we're really after is with the internal rotation of the humerus, and that could potentially be problematic with overusage of the lat pull down or pull up. There's some asides here. It anteriorly rotates the pelvis and extends the the spine there. It side flexes the pelvis and spine, so it does have some interesting other properties as well. But again, the main point here with the insertion of the lat and the functional anatomy being that the lat will internally rotate the arm bone there, the humerus, is why you have to be careful with your ratios when you are talking about prescribing exercises to somebody that has poor posture and that humerus is perhaps already internally rotated. You actually want to reverse that, so working the scapular adductors, which we'll go over here in the next slide, which leads me to the rhomboids. So one of the things that you'll notice right away when you start to talk about the rhomboid muscle groups is there's actually two muscle groups, the rhomboid major and the minor, that you'll see up top right here. But we're going to talk about the rhomboids major first. Now, it arises from the spinous processes of the thoracic vertebra levels 2 through 5 to insert into the medial border of the scapulas here. Okay, and the rhomboids minor arises from the ligamentum nuchae, which is, if you look at the occipital bone here, it traces down. So that minor, again, it arises from that, and the spinous processes of two vertebra. One is the cervical 7, C7, and T1, and it too similarly attaches to the medial border of the scapula, superior to the insertion of the rhomboid major, and we'll just highlight both the major and the minor muscle group with the arrows there, so you can see a good starting point on the anatomy, the functional anatomy of the rhomboids. We've chosen this video here for you to see. There's scapular adduction done by the rhomboids and scapular adduction elevation. Very nice, clear picture of what the rhomboids do and how they move those structures. And I also have a bodybuilder here. Of course, their career is to create muscle balance and muscle hypertrophy. So in this guy, you see these rhomboids like tree trunks. They're just sticking right out at you. It becomes obvious, and he's done a lot of rows to get the rhomboids to develop to that extent. Before we let you go, we're going to give you a list of muscle groups other than the rhomboids that are a good idea to work in terms of reversing upper cross syndrome. And immediately when upper cross syndrome comes to mind, the external rotator cuff muscles I think of almost straight away, and that's the infraspinatus and the teres minor. Some of these other muscle groups here, the rear deltoid helps with posture. You have the your paraspinal muscles that go longitudinally up the back here. Those are your thoracic extensors. Spinal erectors are very important to make sure that those stay strong so you can reverse the kyphosis. And then your mid and lower trapezius plays a role in posture, along with the cervical flexors and extensors, and we'll talk about those muscle groups in the context of improving posture in the subsequent videos. I hope you enjoy this short lecture and that it will help you really get kind of a fuller picture on improving posture and just a pulse on your ratios and proper ratios with the pulling exercises. So again, hope you enjoyed it, and always let us know if you have any questions over those things, and you can comment. Feel free to comment. Thanks.